thank you all for joining us. Welcome to another episode of Hawai'i Commercial Kitchens Technical Assistance. This time we are joined by Erik Shimuzu of GoFarm Hawaiʻi. Thanks for joining us, Erik.
Yeah, no, thanks for inviting me, Anthony.
So Erik's going to cover business plans. And before he does that, I'm just going to mention the details of this grant program. So Hawai'i Commercial Kitchens, which you can visit, hawaiicommercialkitchens.com. We are offering free support and technical assistance to any food business on Hawaii Island that's been in operation since March of 2020. So these are COVID recovery funds, part of the state and local fiscal recovery funds program authorized by ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act. This grant program is one part of a larger food security and agricultural initiatives program, which was put on by Hawaii County R&D. If you saw the recent Malama to Farmer grants by the Food Basket, that's another set of funding from the same source as this program. So we are here at Hawaii Farm to Car, which is run by Ho'ola Farms, formerly Ho'ola Veteran Services, which was originally created to support veterans entering agriculture. And we have a veteran family here with us in person. Thank you guys for joining. We also have the Hilo Food Hub commercial kitchen in Keaukaha. That's a commercial kitchen for rent. And it is one of many on the island and soon to be more. There is a kitchen directory on the website. You can check it out, hawaiicommercialkitchens.com. And we are also doing these free monthly workshops, which are open to the public. And hey guys, come on in. Free workshops open to the public. We're here in person, on virtually via Zoom, and the workshops are posted in their completion on YouTube and linked on the website. So check it out if you have not, hawaiicommercialkitchens.com. And if you are a food-related business that's been in operation since March of 2020, please register on that website so you can tap into additional support and resources. We have business planning, marketing, personnel management, permitting and compliance, food safety, and we can even pay for a HACCP plan if you are making a high-risk value-added product. So pretty cool stuff. With that being said, I'm gonna pass it over to Erik, and he's gonna give us a little presentation on business plans, and then we're gonna go hands-on with a business plan tool.
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. As Anthony mentioned, my name is Erik Shimuzu. I'm with GoFarm Hawaiʻi. Some of you may be familiar with our program. I just want to make sure I thank all of our sponsors and funders. Without them, we couldn't do what we do. We provide a lot of these kind of business training courses. But I'll tell you a little bit about our program just to give you an idea for those who might not be familiar with this. So GoFarm Hawaiʻi is a University of Hawaii College of Tropical Agriculture extension program. They just changed their name. So it used to be Hawaii College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources. It's now Human Resilience. So I had to change all of my slides.
Really?
Yes, we're an extension program, but we're not really on the budget formally. So that's why our funders do a lot to help us provide the services that we provide. GoFarm Hawaiʻi is primarily known for our beginning farmer training program, which is on the left side of the screen. We take people who are interested in maybe starting a farm or wanting to go from backyard gardening to commercial gardening or farming, and we try to help them gain the foundational knowledge needed to become a starting farmer. I come in on the back end of that course, and I provide some of the business consulting classes for the farm students. And if you're interested in our beginning farmer training program, again, you can find a lot of this information on our website, but we have our Hawaii Island Ag Curious next week, Tuesday. So if you're interested, it's just a 1-hour class. It's not even a class, it's a 1-hour session where we explain what the program looks like, what's involved, and answer any questions the audience might have. So if you're interested, I'll be at that next week, Tuesday, I believe. But in addition to our training program, we offer business consulting services. So those services are offered to anybody who's growing something locally, or if you're a value-added producer, as long as you're using locally grown ingredients and it's food or agriculture related. We can help you on the business side with a lot of things, including but not limited to like a cash flow projection, developing a business plan, which we're going to talk about today. On the marketing side, one of our business team members has kind of a graphic design background. She can help design a kind of very basic logo or start you on designing your logo, getting ready for the farmers market. So a variety of things. If you have any need on the business side, I'd recommend just emailing us at that info@gofarmhawaii.org email address, and I can reach back out to you and we'll find out who the best person to talk to you is. And just to let you know, we're a statewide.
Wait a minute.
Oh, go ahead.
Hold on, Eric. Are you saying that GoFarm offers free ag business consulting for anybody?
Yes, for the most part, our services are free. Sometimes we're written into a grant and somebody pays us for that service. Sometimes it's a larger landowner, and if we're gonna, not landowner, but if it's a larger operation and they can afford to hire a consultant, we might charge them because we'd rather be working with people who might be a little more cash strapped and might need our assistance a little bit more. So it depends on the need, but for most beginning farmers or small farmers or mid-sized farmers, all our services are free.
That is great. So we actually just had somebody join the Zoom who was asking, wait, so is this technical assistance that you guys are offering at Hawai'i Commercial Kitchens, is that for anybody? And the answer is no. In order to get Hawai'i Commercial Kitchens consulting, you have to have been in business since March of 2020 and only on Hawaii Island. However, GoFarm is statewide and offers free ag business consulting for anyone.
Yep, just reach out and we'll set you up with our client application. You fill out a little bit of information and then we'll schedule time to meet with you. What I have on this map here is just where our training farms are located. So the one I mentioned next week is on our Big Island farm, which is right outside of Hilo. It's by the Alai Cemetery, I think is where we've got one location on Kauai, one on Maui, and then 2 on Oahu. So that's where we actually have a farm. We have a farm coach. Those coaches are the ones that will instruct you if you join our beginning farmer program on the production skills necessary to start your own farm business. Then every student gets like a row. They operate that row. They harvest and sell whatever they grow on that row during the course of our program. On the consulting side, I just wanted to throw up our names. So Kyle, myself, Pomai, and Alyssa are the primary consultants that you're probably going to work with if you go to GoFarm. And I just listed kind of our areas of, not expertise, but our areas of experience. So all of us have a little bit of a different knowledge base. My background is in accounting and financial numbers. I'm the numbers nerd. I'm just now getting used to having actual audiences in front of me when I'm talking on the training. I'm used to just staring at my Zoom screen or working at my spreadsheet. My background is in business and in accounting. But I have been working with farm businesses for the last 20 years since I started with GoFarm at the university. So I feel like I've got a lot of experience in the industry. But if you have production questions or how do I deal with this pest kind of questions, that's not a question for me. I'll find somebody that can help you. And on the right side of the screen is just some examples of what we do and where we can assist. So if you have any need for any of those kind of services or analyses, you can reach out. What we're going to talk about today, is business plans. So Anthony asked me to talk a little bit about business plans, what they are, why you might need one, what's included in one. And then we're going to end after I go through the slides with a really cool tool that I found from University of Minnesota. Mm-hmm. It's called AgPlan. You can log online, sign up for a free account, and you can create a business plan online using that AgPlan tool. So we're going to walk through using that and what it looks like. I feel like it's a really interesting tool everybody should use it. They have to write a business plan. But moving on to actual business plans and the topic for today, what is it? Right? So we've all heard business plans as a term. It's basically a document that's going to describe your current business or your desired future business that you're planning to do, and details out like your goals for that business, some of the financial and marketing kind of targets and aspects for that business, and how you plan to achieve those goals that you have for that business, right? It's a nice kind of comprehensive document that explains everything you want about a business idea that you might have. That note is super important. Every business plan is a dynamic document. So by that I mean you can't write a business plan today and then it's good for the rest of your life. Right? You're going to have to update it. Your plans are going to change. You might want to change the wording or emphasize different things depending on your audience. So by that I mean, hey, if you're applying for a grant and that grant funder has specific goals in its organizational mission, make sure that your business plan shows how you are in line with that, right? If you're applying for a loan, that bank officer doesn't care about all of your fluffy business, this is our goal, these are our goals, these are our visions, this is how, that bank manager wants to know, can you pay off that loan? So keep in mind who your audience is and then update your business plan accordingly, but it should always be updated. But even if you dust it off the shelf, give it a read through, make sure it still applies. I've been in a position where I've reviewed a lot of business plans, and I've gotten some business plans that somebody turned it into me and it's totally not up to date. So we spend a lot of time just making sure that it's updated before they can even turn it into somebody else. And it's your document, right? The business plan is your document. So even if you get somebody to help you, make sure that you're really involved in developing that business plan. Because not having a plan if somebody asks you for one is bad, but having a plan but not knowing anything that's in it is just as bad. If you go to a bank manager or a landowner and you give them your plan and they're flipping through it and they ask you a question about something, you can't say, oh, I don't know, Eric did it for me, so you should probably ask him. Like, that's a horrible answer. So make sure that you take ownership of that plan and that you know what's in there. So it's good to get help and assistance, but make sure you understand what they're putting into your plan, because you got to be able to answer questions on it.
Let me just jump in here because this sounds like a lot of what people might end up dealing with ChatGPT in this new age of ChatGPT. Oh, I need a business plan for my Hawaii farm growing coffee. ChatGPT is going to spit out a bunch of pages for you. That's more than useless, because the reality is, if you're not the one making your business plan, how are you going to make your business, right? So don't just let ChatGPT make your business plan. You want to go through and actually enter in, figure the information out yourself.
Yeah. AI might be a great tool to give you a template to start with, but definitely you need to add your own fingerprint to that business plan, because that's a reflection of you to the reader, right? Why would you need one? Primarily, it'll be for external or internal reasons. Externally, like I said, if you go for a loan, a lot of times if you go for a lease for a plot of land, the bank manager or the loan officer or the landowner, they're going to ask you for a business plan in most cases, right? Because that shows them that you're going to be able to pay off that loan or pay your lease rent on time, right? Grants, everybody wants to get a grant. While specifically a business plan might not be necessary, the grant application, sometimes they do ask for a business plan, but a lot of times the things they're asking for in the application are components of your business plan that you can just pull out of your plan and put into the application as needed, right? So the contents of the information in the plan would still be useful for a grant application. Internally, you might have a business idea or a farm plan or a food business that you want to do, but you might not have thought it out or done the back of the napkin. The business plan, you can make it nice and rough and dirty, draft style. It's a good way to kind of validate that business plan that you have, right? And some people, I mean, that's that prevents them from making a costly, expensive decision. Like they haven't thought everything out. And I'm all for, hey, putting your feet in the fire, jumping in, just doing something and seeing if it works. That's great. But it's dangerous. So a business plan is a good way to kind of vet your idea and validate the plan that you have in your head to make sure that it kind of pencils out on paper before you start investing money or capital. So what does a business plan look like? And again, feel free if you have any questions. There's templates for business plans. If you go on Amazon and you type in business plans, there's like 50,000 books. It used to be like 100-something thousand. Like, I don't know why it shrank, but it might be because it's so easy to Google how do I write a business plan that people aren't bothering writing books about it, right? Like I said, there's a lot of templates out there. There's a lot of products out there. Please don't pay for something to help you write a business plan. Ag plan that we're going to look at is free. Anthony's services are free if you're out of Hawaii.
Your services
my
are free.
services are free. Like, reach out to somebody that's a free service before you pay for a book or pay for a program to help you with your business plan, right? Primarily, all business plans will break down into these 5 categories. There's going to be an exec summary. Every business plan has an executive summary in the front. There's going to be a section about your farm or your business or your company. It's kind of like, this is a bad analogy, but it's like the bones. It's what's there, right? The owners, we'll talk about what's in that section, but it's the bones. The operations portion kind of is the muscles and the blood vessels. It's how your company is going to operate, what they're going to do, what they're going to sell. So what's on top of the bones, right? And then there's always going to be a marketing section. There's going to be a financial section. If you type in, how do I write a business plan? There'll be a lot of different things, but I guarantee you they'll all fall into one of these 5. Like industry analysis or customer or analysis of my competition. Those all fall under marketing, right? Startup budgets or, cost of production. Those all fall under financials. Mission, like who are my employees and who are the business leaders? That will either fall under company or your operations, right? So the good thing about Ag Plan, we don't get a kickback, so I'm not shilling it. It breaks down a lot of different sections, and then it'll fill it all into a business plan for you. But primarily, they'll fall under these kind of umbrellas. And I just want to kind of go over each of those things briefly to let you know what's kind of within that, right? Executive summary. It's in the front of your business plan, but do it last. All right, so do all of the work in the rest of the business plan, all the details, and then figure out what should go into that 1-page summary. It should summarize the significant components of the plan. So you're not going to throw a lot of financial numbers in there, but you might throw a little chart or a bar graph, right? You're not going to throw in a lot of detail. It's going to be bullet points. It's got to be concise. That's key for the executive summary. I mean, if it's longer than a page, you're pushing it. I'm on the fence about these sound effects. Because I'm part of the university, I'm going to make mistakes and hit my mic because I'm not used to this. I work at the university. I've worked with academics who had business ideas, right? And when I gave me their business plan and I'm reading their exec summary, they've got all this scientific jargon and why they did this and that has no business being in the exec summary. Like, he was telling me his research paper in that exec summary was like 2 or 3 pages long. I wasn't even interested in his business plan. So keep it concise. Typically, you want to end that executive summary with an ask. And by that I mean, if you're applying for a loan, you want to end it with, and that's why I feel like a loan from your organization will help me succeed in my vision for this plan, right? Or if you're applying for a grant, that's why I believe that your grant funds will be responsibly used through my project, blah, blah, blah. It's an action step for the reader, right? They read your exec summary, and now you're giving them a kind of an action thing. So please do this. Please help me do this. And it's a good way to get them interested in reading the details of your summary, right? And that's the exec summary. Keep it. If it's longer than a page, revisit it. Take a look at it again. Try to shorten it, right? Just think about the audience and use that to help you kind of direct the tone of that exec summary also, and your whole business plan. So that's the first section. Second section is company overview. And I said in my bad analogy that that's like the bones, right? That's like, the bones just lay there. That's what's there, right? This is why I have a plan in the first place. This is what my business looks like. It's a LLC, it's a sole proprietorship, it's a partnership. These are the partners, right? This is what the business hopes to do. These are our goals. This is how we hope to get there. It's kind of like I said, it's what's there for the business, right? Management, this is where you might want to put who's in charge of what. And for a lot of entrepreneurs, you're in charge of all of those, right? It's useful to say, hey, I'm going to be in charge of these sections because I have experience through my previous job, my training, my education. I'm lacking in these areas, but I'm going to look for advisors or mentors or, organizations that I can turn to. So make sure that if you're listing yourself for all of these different kind of areas, like production and sales and marketing, I mean, if you're that person that can do all of those, awesome. But most of us are strong in some things and not in others, so we want to find resources that we can turn to, whether it's Anthony or myself. You can write, I've got business mentors if I need help on the financial side from GoFarm Hawaiʻi, right? Or I've got a professor that I have a really good relationship with, and they're going to help me on my value-added product development and my labeling requirement. Make sure that the reader is confident that you've got all the assets and the personnel in place, even if it's not people that are your employees, right? They want to know, hey, this person's thought about what they need to do to make this a success, and they've reached out and they know what kind of resources are out there that can help them ensure that they are a success, right? Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Anthony.
Yeah, Anthony.
I have a question. How do you know which ownership or legal status or business structure you should have?
That's a whole nother class, Anthony. So if you've not started a business, right, the structures you're probably going to look at are, you're going to be a sole proprietorship. It doesn't require a lot of kind of regulatory oversight. Anybody can be a sole proprietorship. You just got to get your GET number from the state of Hawaii, right? There are partnerships. Partnerships are a great structure to take. I mean, they work out in theory. They're limited by the life of the partners. So when either partner leaves, that partnership is over, right? An alternative to partnerships are limited liability corporations. So LLCs are very similar to partnerships in that you have members of the business, but members can come and go. It's a little more flexible than a partnership, right? And then there are corporations, right? You can be a corporation. S Corp is a smaller version of a regular corporation. I think S Corps were developed to make it easier for businesses to start and entrepreneurs to begin businesses without having to go through the whole rigmarole of filing a full-on C corporation. But there are still federal and regulatory oversight for an S Corp. You're still going to have shareholders. It's limited for an S Corp because it's smaller, like I said. There's different levels of liability protection for all of these different structures that I talked about. And like I said, it's a whole other class, right? As a sole proprietor, you are the business. So if somebody sues your business, they're suing you. As a partner, you're limited to your partnership share. So it's a split between two people, but you're still the business. As an LLC, LLCs were developed to provide that corporate kind of protection on the liability side. That's why it's called limited liability corporation. But you have to operate it like an LLC, like a separate entity. So you have to operate that LLC as a separate business, which means you don't mingle your personal bank account with the business bank account, right? You don't pay for business expenses with your personal credit card. You got to operate it separately, and then the law, hopefully, if somebody sues your business, will say that that LLC is separate from your personal stuff. That's kind of the highlight.
Thank you.
So that's the company overview section, right? And that was a great question, Anthony from the audience. So we talked about exec summary is the number one section. Company overview is the second section. The third section is the operational overview. And that's where I said, like, the company overview is kind of the bones. This is what we do. This is who we are. This is what it is, right? The operational is, well, what are our products going to be? You know, what are we going to sell? Is it produce? Is it a value-added product? Is it a service? If you're a commercial kitchen, your product and what you're selling is hours in the kitchen, right? Assistance or consulting with product development. Those are your products, right? Where are you located? What is if you're a farm, you want to include a farm map, which you can easily do on Google Earth. Now, it's awesome. You go to Google Earth, type in your address, satellite image comes up, you can draw out your plots on your farm, and it'll tell you how many acres it is, right? Or if you're a restaurant or a certified commercial kitchen, what is your floor plan going to look like, right? That's what you want to include in this section. Labor. How many employees am I going to need? What are they going to be doing? And what are they going to be in charge of? You would include that. These other things like supply and distribution and sales and order fulfillment. I mean, depending on the complexity of your operation, how are you going to make sure that your product gets to your customers, right? In some cases, if you're a restaurant or a commercial kitchen, it's a little more obvious because people are going to come to you. Like if you're a farmer, where are you going to sell? I'm going to sell at the farmer's market. I have refrigerated delivery trucks, blah, 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 right? Equipment and technology, if you've got like special equipment, I mean, don't list, I got a computer and a laptop and that's what I'm going to, we're talking about, hey, I've got an egg washer and I'm an egg business, right? Not everybody has that. Or I'm going to be a producer on a farm and I'm going to use specialized harvesting equipment for my lettuce and my leafy greens. It's going to allow me to double my harvest, you know, with the same amount of labor. Like significant pieces of equipment or technology that are going to assist you in your business, not just average stuff. Certifications, it's obvious. If you're going to be organically certified as a producer, you want to make sure you list that because that separates you from your competition, right? If you're a certified commercial kitchen, I mean, it's certified, it's in the name. You went through the certification process. If you're food safety certified, list that in the business plan because all of those things help to separate you from your, I always say competition or competitors, and I know in our ag community, we don't like to think of people as competitors or competition, but we all are kind of vying for similar business, right? People that do the same thing that you do or substitute items from what you do are competition in a good way, healthy. Competition is healthy, right? That's operations. Any questions? Those first three sections are pretty straightforward. Exec summary, company overview, operational overview, and then the section that everybody loves to work on is their market. Like marketing is the most fun. I'm the business guy, the numbers cruncher, and I know my section is the least fun, but I know marketing is the most fun. So what's included in the marketing section? Before you get to all the fun stuff, I want all of you to do some kind of industry or market analysis. You know, what am I getting into? What does it look like? What are the trends that are happening? So I'm going to use a lot of food farmer analogies or stories, but like for farmers, you know, why are you going to grow the crops you're growing? Like, are there any trends that are happening that you can take advantage of? What is the market, right? Locally grown produce, organic produce, those are big trends. Organic more so before. Now it's kind of like less, I feel, I don't know. That organic certification label Before it was like you had to get that. Now maybe it's if you grow organically or you're using natural practices and you explain that to your customer, maybe that specific organic certification is, but I don't know. What are the trends that are happening in the industry, right? Like a good example is if you were gonna start a food truck, I mean, is that something that's on the burgeoning trend or is it something that's on the downward end of the trend? What does the market kind of look like? There's so many food trucks in Hawaii now. Is that a great market for you to get into? And if you are, what are you going to bring that's different? Right? I visited Maui. I love all of our neighbor islands. There are so many food trucks on Maui. If you're going to open a food truck now, good luck to you, man. It's tough. But 5-10 years ago, if you were to do it then, maybe you would have been on the cusp of food trucks, right? So make sure that second bullet point, make sure there's enough room in the market for you, or make sure you know how you're going to get your market share, right? And all of that's going to come from kind of doing some research, some industry analysis, some market/industry analysis. I use them interchangeably. I think technically industry analysis is more the global industry analysis. Market analysis is more of your local market. I use industry analysis, market analysis interchangeably, and if that's wrong, I apologize. But it's looking at the pond you're going to dive into, right? So in addition to looking at that industry and do some industry analysis, look at your customer and identify who your target customer is, and that's going to help you plan how to market and reach them, right? Who are you going to sell to? What do they look like? If you're honey, for example, right? Let's say your customer you're planning to have high-end honey, and you want to sell it to tourists that are going to come here and spend money on perishable goods that they just want, Then I love the fact that this is in this. How many sides is this? 6? Is this
it's too big for a carry-on.
It's a 7 ounce, so it's
Yeah.
too big but they do get
But the packaging, the thought that went into this packaging, it's not the standard little bear packages that we see for honey. If you're shooting for like local consumers, maybe that bear one is fine. Maybe it's cheaper, right? There are businesses that sell honey on the mainland. I forget where it was, but they're using like super fancy glass, towering honey. Like it's a nice glass wine bottle looking thing of honey. Like it's thinner, and their target market is not a local target. Like it's not, if I'm a local producer and I want to sell honey to local consumers at a reasonable price, that's not my packaging. So make sure you think about who you're selling to and what that market looks like. If you're producing a specific vegetable or fruit that a specific ethnic group likes, right? That helps you decide where to market. Maybe you market it in those local community newsletters, or you look at communities that have high populations of those people that like that type of fruit. I'm being vague because I want to be politically correct, but like durian. Let's say you're going to be a farmer and you're going to grow durian. Your consumer and your customer, your target market is people who like durian, right? I'm Japanese. I don't care for durian, right? Your target market isn't large communities of Japanese individuals, right? For those of you who might not know what durian is, it's got a very distinct odor. People say it smells like rotten onions, but it's got a lot of popularity among Southeast Asian communities. I think young millennials like or want to try it because they've seen it on the Food Network. Like all those chefs on the Food Channel, they're all like, oh, this is so delicious. It's creamy and I love it. And it smells like stinky onions, but it's got such a great flavor. So of course people that are watching that go, I want to try that. All right. Who's your market?
Punatics. Punatics are a big market for durian.
Punatics?
Punatics, yeah. The crazy people in Puna.
Oh.
Again,
Punatics. I like a lunatic.
some people
Yeah, okay.
feel like competition is a bad word, or that like crazy puna is a bad word, but to me those are good words.
Yeah. No. And those words help you identify your market, right?
It's true.
The better you know your market, your target market, and your customer, the easier it'll be for you to reach them. And that's what it's all about. If you want to be a gardener, you don't have to worry about customers. If you want to be a business, you got to sell your stuff. I mean, you can give it away. But in most cases, as a business person, I want you to sell your stuff, right? Everything you grow, sell it. I'm the jerk in all of our GoFarm classes. Everybody's talking about growing stuff and providing for the community and helping out. I'm like, who are you going to sell that to? How much are they going to pay you? Because that's what my objective is. It's for you to be a viable business, right? I want you to be a strong business, and then you can afford to do all those other things on the side, right? Make enough money to pay for your business, and then you can donate. And I don't want you to lose money by doing what you're doing. If you can afford to lose money because you're a multi-millionaire, please throw all your money into agriculture. But for most of us as starting entrepreneurs, you need that business to pay for itself. So I want to make sure that that happens. And the best way to do that is to know who your customers are, where they shop. And that's going to be how you reach. That's going to make it easier for you to figure out how to reach them. Research for that stuff that I've been talking about, like the market analysis and the customer, looking at for your target market. There's a lot of census data you can find online that will tell you where people live, right? Hawaii used to have a data book. I don't think they still do it anymore. The state of Hawaii, visiting vendors at where you think your target market shops and ask them who's buying stuff and what are they looking for. You might have to be a little sly and use some spy skills and not let them know that you're going to start a business. But I mean, ask, what are people looking for? What are they buying, right? Survey your current customers if you're selling stuff. See what they like, what they don't like, where they shop. Google, if nothing else, there's Google and there's AI that you can start off with as your research. Don't let AI be your answer. Like, do your due diligence, but it's a good place to start. You have a question?
Also, NASS, National Agricultural
Yes.
Survey.
NASS has some information.
A lot of information on price. Granted, it's
Yeah,
countrywide.
yeah.
Price, and especially if you're looking at selling mainland and stuff.
They also have there's a lot of data on what we're growing locally and in what volumes. The only thing is that sometimes that data is reliant upon people answering surveys, so it might not be complete, right? I mean, any research you do, or true, you're right. Research on where you got your market analysis and your target market kind of analysis from lends to your credibility, because it shows that you did your due diligence, right? When people come to me and they want to work on a business plan, and I talk to them, well, who's your customer, who's your target market, how much are they selling it for, or how much are competitors selling it for, and they have no idea what their target market is, right? That's going to impact what their packaging looks like, and it's going to impact what their market strategy should be. And I need them to do that research because I don't want to tell them the answer. That's not my job isn't to tell you the answer. Your job is to tell me who you're going to sell to, and I want to help you reach them. Next part of the market, so we're still in the marketing section, right? I told you it's a lot of stuff is encompassed in that marketing section. But in addition to looking at your industry, looking at your target customer, you need to look at your competition, right? Who are the current competitors in the market? Are there big players that have a lot of the market share, or is it a bunch of small players, right? And then identify where you have an advantage over them. And again, for some people, it's hard to think of our fellow producers or businesses as competitors, but you gotta think about why people are gonna buy from you instead of them, right? We don't want to talk bad about them, but you want to talk good about you. So why are they going to prefer buying from you than your competitors? And competitors aren't just the people doing the exact same thing or selling the exact same thing. It's people that are selling or things that are comparable. So like if you're producing flour made out of ulu, your competitors aren't just other ulu flour producers. There are other producers who are doing flour out of non-wheat,
Or even wheat.
or even
wheat flour.
Yeah, wheat flour is going to be.
Yeah.
You're trying to take that, right? Yeah, you were going to add something.
Yeah, I mean, one important thing to remember here is if you're selling honey, for example, yes, your competition are other local honey producers, but it's also any honey that people are buying in grocery stores, right? If somebody in Hawaii buys their honey at Safeway, that honey that's coming from who knows where and probably isn't even actually full honey, that's competition. So we can talk bad about them. Right, just sugar as an alternative.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of room in the Hawaii market for local growth by taking away from the competition of the 90% of food that's imported to the island.
Like I said, if you're trying to enter a market, nobody knows who you are. I would just try the market price, see what happens. And it depends where you're selling it also, right? If you're going to the farmer's market, hey, you're gonna sell honey at the farmer's market. You've never done that before. You're gonna go to the farmer's market, you're gonna market, you're gonna price it at comparable prices there. Maybe I price it a little bit higher because my plastic jar is much nicer than the bare jar, right? Depending on what you can show the customer in terms of the value that you're providing, maybe you can go a little bit higher than the market. If you notice things aren't moving, then maybe you got to think about, okay, well, I got to do some kind of pricing discount. Maybe I call it a grand opening, first week only, 25% off, right? I don't ever recommend people cutting prices. It's hard because you don't want to impact the market by throwing prices that are too low. You definitely want to get paid what you're worth. If you're starting out, it's hard for the consumer to know what you're worth. So you might have to do some kind of entry pricing. I don't know how long that period is. How good are you at social media? Like sometimes you can tell people before you even hit the market, hey, I'm gonna be at this market in 3 weeks, and you're building that market presence already. Then you can go in there with the high price. Like I paid ridiculous prices for locally produced ice cream bars that I know aren't worth $9 or whatever, $10 that I paid it, but there's so much marketing for it, everybody wants to try it and it's brand new, right? Those people, they could be new to the market, but they know that people are gonna buy their stuff because of their social media presence. It depends on how good you are on the marketing stuff. And then when you're looking at competition, like where do you get the information, the research? Go to the market and see what other people are pricing their stuff at. I am shocked when people come to me with their business idea and I ask them how much things are selling for at the well, how much are people buying honey for? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, you're at the market every day buying food for your family. Take a second and look at the prices. I work with a lot of farmers. Sorry, I keep hitting the mic. I work with a lot of farmers, right? They always want to know what am I going to grow, and I'm like, well, if you're going to grow this, what's the market price? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, you're at the farmer's market every week. You go to the market. How much are people selling organic arugula for? Right? Go to the market. Go to other venues where people are selling what you're producing. If you're a producer, if you're a commercial kitchen, look it up online. How much are people charging an hour to use a commercial kitchen? What facilities do they have versus what do I have? Can I charge more because I have better facilities? No, do I have to charge less because I'm just basically a big room with a walk-in fridge? Like, look at your competition, see what they're pricing it at, and then use that to help you determine what your pricing should be, right? And you can always ask. I mean, it depends. We're always gonna be in a place where we have people that wanna just pay the lowest price available, regardless of, the fact that, hey, if you pay a little bit more, you can get it local. And you know that produce came on the ship and it was green and it was not ripe, and you pay $1 more, you can get this thing that was pulled off of the farm yesterday. For some people that matters. For some people that doesn't.
We can talk bad about them.
Yeah. I'm gonna, and you know what? No, we can't because
I'm just kidding.
It goes to people's background and upbringing. Like my mom is my mom, right? I'm old, so my mom is older than me. But when she was a young mother, there wasn't a lot of work or talk about like you got to use organic, like not in regular urban, suburban communities, right? You just went to the grocery store, you bought the prettiest vegetables and produce, and you tried to get it for the lowest price. They weren't worried about carbon footprint. They weren't worried about how far did that produce travel. I hope my mom never sees this because she'll get mad. But that is true. The nuclear family was not concerned about things like that, right? But it's different now. So capitalize on that. But yeah, you got to do your research. You got to know what separates you from your competitors in order to be able to sell to them, right? To the consumer. Branding, right? This is the part everybody loves. Developing your logo. How are people going to identify with me? What are they going to think about me when they see this logo? Or when they see my packaging? Or when they see my display at my farmer's market? Like what are they going to associate with me and my farm or my business or my company? Right? I use a story of a farm that we went to work with early on in GoFarm's life, and the farmer's logo, like it was a thumbs up and it had stars around it, and it was purple and yellow or something like that. It was an Asian farmer, older gentleman. I don't know if I saw that logo, I don't know that I would know that guy was a farmer, right? But for him, it had meaning because the color was lucky, the number of stars was lucky, and you know his ethnic background, the thumbs up was lucky. So all those are lucky symbols. That's why he put it into his business logo. But it didn't tell me anything about the farm. Right? They ended up, his kids took it over. They redid the logo, and it's like now it's much more ag related. Like I can look at their logo, I know who they are, I know what farm that is. So think about that when you're developing your logo or all of your marketing paraphernalia, right? That's the fun stuff, developing that logo. Nobody wants to work on their cash flow projection. Everybody wants to develop their logo. But it's important, make sure that you get the right one. Another section is make sure you have a plan for how you're going to market to your customers. How are you going to reach them? How are you going to get them? How are you going to keep them, right? It's important in this section to be specific. And I say that because, like I said, I've read a lot of business plans, and every business plan that I've read will say, I'm going to market to my customers through using social media, Instagram, Facebook. You know, they're not specific. I don't know what that means. I mean, I know what Instagram and Facebook mean, but what do you mean you're going to market to them? Are you going to post weekly recipes for the products that are going to be in your CSA bag? Are you going to let them know what the specials are for the week at your restaurant or your food truck? Like, what does reaching them through social media mean? You got to be specific. You can't just use generalities, because that doesn't tell me anything if I'm the reader, right? What is your plan? How are you going to reach them? Are you going to do newsletters, e-letters? Are you going to provide them with recipes in the CSA bag that are going to help them use the produce that you're selling them? Are you going to show up at the farmer's market every week for the next 6 months to build a presence? Like, what is the budget? How much is that going to cost you? Those are the kind of things you want to make sure that you kind of identify in the marketing. You got to have a plan. Like, you can't just market. And if I hear word of mouth one more time, your mouth can't reach that many people. Your mouth cannot reach that many people. Like, hey, it's a great start, but that can't be your whole plan, right? Like, I say that, but I know a lot of people that say right word of mouth, and I don't mean to disregard anything they say, but it doesn't tell me anything. You say, I want to use word of mouth. What does that mean? You're going to talk to your mom and your kids when you go home, or your family? Are you an orator, or are you a webinar producer or a speaker, and you reach X number of people every week? That's word of mouth, but that's much different than me trying to go word of mouth to my coworkers, my family and friends. So be specific when you're talking about your strategy.
Yeah, could you go door to door? Is that word of mouth?
Door to door
Like you're
is word
selling
of mouth.
vacuum cleaners?
And I know that doesn't work. Like that's like I've had people come to my house door to door, trying to give me pamphlets, and I barely take it, and then I don't pay attention to them. Word of mouth is tough.
I do want to add, before you go on to the next section, next month, our workshop is going to be on marketing. So next month will be all about marketing, and we'll go more in depth about all of these marketing plan, logo, branding, etc. And that will be with Katie from Ho'ola Farms, who does all of the amazing marketing. As you can see, like our flyers and everything. So we'll be talking about marketing next month as well.
So now the fun section, right? Financials. For me, and I'm the financial guy, when somebody gives me a business plan, I read that exec summary, and then the first thing I do is I flip to the numbers. I don't care about all that narrative, why you're doing this and how beautiful your product is and why everybody's gonna, I wanna see the numbers, right? And then when I'm looking at the numbers, I will go back and reflect on the narrative. Like, okay, this is what they're selling. All right, let me look and see what the product is. If you're going for a lease or if you're going for a loan, if you can't show that you can pay those things off, it doesn't make sense for them to read the whole thing. So I guarantee you that they're going to look at the numbers first, right? They don't want to read through your whole plan and then they get to the financials and it shows you have a negative cash balance every month, which means you can't pay back their loan. Like, why did they read that whole front? Make sure that your financials reflect what you need it to reflect for why you're writing the business plan. Okay, I'm not saying ever to lie. You never lie. But if you're doing a business plan and let's say you're gonna be a producer and you're gonna do an orchard crop, and when all of your research says that orchard crop will provide between 1,000 to 2,000 pounds of produce a year, right? If you use the low end, 1,000, and it shows that you're going to be negative every month, maybe you got room to play. You're not lying. It was 1,000 to. If you use 1,000 for yourself because you want to know what's the worst that I can do, great. If you're applying for something that you got to have money to pay back, maybe you use 1,500 instead of 1,000. The research said 1,000 to 2,000, 1,500 is viable, right? Make sure that the financials, otherwise why even do the plan, right? Why even give it to that person if you can't show that you're gonna make enough money to pay off that loan that you're asking for? That's what I wanna say. And I'm not saying to fudge the numbers, I'm saying everything in a projection is a projection, and use the numbers that make sense for you for what you need the plan to do, okay? If you're doing it for yourself, use that bottom number because that's the worst that could happen. Hopefully. I mean, you could be under that worst that could happen, but then
It'd be a bad year.
It's a really bad year. If you're applying for a grant, you want to make sure you show on the financials how you're going to use the money. That cash flow projection, I've underlined it. A cash flow projection shows the money going into and going out of your business, right? I've got an example in a couple of slides. We're going to talk about what the cash flow is because I said that that's a little smart. It's very similar to a P&L, but it's different a little bit. It's the actual movement of money going into and out of your business. It's what people look at to make sure you can pay off that loan or you can pay off that lease. It shows how much you're going to have at the end of every month. And again, I'll show you on an example what I'm talking about. But again, for that cash flow projection, that bullet point, that fourth bullet point, you know, make sure that you use the projections that make sense for what you need the plan to do, right? How long should you show cash flow projections? They're going to tell you. Whoever asks you for a plan is going to tell you. If they don't say anything, I would maybe show 1 year in detail and then a couple of years, like just an annual. It depends on what you're doing. If you're a service business, you're going to start generating money from day one, right? So it's easy. You can just show year one. If you start an orchard farm and your crop's going to take 3 years to produce, don't show me 1 year of nothing, right? Maybe you show, hey, years 1 through 3 are going to be this in total. And then in year 4, when I'm producing, this is what I'm going to look like every month, right? Never show projections that don't show that you're making money. Otherwise, why are you even doing the plan, right? You got to be generating some kind of income. If you're an existing business, people will ask for historical cash flow projections. Just be aware of that, right? They're going to want to, they might ask for financial statements or tax returns, but they're going to ask for historical financial information. If they don't ask or they don't tell you how many years, I would just project up until you're making a profit. Okay? Some people will ask, and I've seen people ask for 10 years of cash flow projections, which is ridiculous. You know, I mean, to me, I hope whoever asked for 10 years never sees this. We don't know what's going to happen as an agricultural business in 2 years from now. And this person was asking a farmer for projections out to 10 years, and I was like, yeah, that's crazy. Like, who knows what's going to happen in 10 years? So what I recommended to that farmer was you do 1 year by month in detail, and then you do years 2 through 10 just as percentage increases. There's other financial information, right? If you're an entrepreneurial startup business, you want to show what it's going to take to get this business up and running. So a table showing your startup costs. This is the equipment I'm going to have to put into my commercial kitchen. This is the renovation work we're going to have to do to get it up to food safety quality standards. What are those things going to cost, right? What's the budget for that? How are you going to get that money? Maybe that's what the business plan is for, it's asking for that money, right? Operational costs or cost of production. If you've done that analysis, great. But like I said, it's probably going to be a lot of conjecture if you're a startup business. You don't know how much it costs you to produce that value-added product. You can estimate it based on what you think is going to happen. You might have done a few batches, but is that really the cost of production? I wouldn't throw a cost of production in there unless I was specifically asked for it, but people like to put it in there. Income statements and balance sheets, those are specific accounting statements, right? So an income statement is a specific thing that shows your revenues and your expenses. It's very similar to a cash flow, but it includes non-cash things. So like if you sell somebody a product and you don't collect the money, you would show it on your income statement as revenue, but because you didn't collect the money, you don't show it on your cash flow projection as revenue. I don't want to confuse anybody, right? If you sell somebody something on a receivable, like if you sell something to somebody on credit, you record the sale in an income statement, but then you record the accounts receivable for that person on your balance sheet. And all of that kind of balances the transaction. If you're just showing the money coming into and going out of your business, you never collected that money, so you wouldn't show it as income. Do you want to add?
Well, I was just going to say, it's easy to get lost in the weeds when you start going deep into the financials and the different financial statements. But just know that we don't have to go too deep today, and we, as Erik would say, it's a whole nother workshop.
Yes.
Right? And we actually have already done one financials workshop, which you can watch on HawaiiCommercialKitchens.com.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, I'm glad I don't have to delve into it. But like a schedule of your production is a good thing to throw in the financial section to show how you're going to produce the stuff that you're going to sell, right? If you're a service operation, how many hours are you going to have available to sell to your customers, right? What is that going to look like? That last bullet point, yield, sales, labor, that's more for like a farm operation. What are my yields going to look like? How much of that am I going to sell? And then marketing. If you have a budget for your marketing, you should include that. And then when you're talking financials, how do you find that information, right? Same thing, Google, right? You can ask other business owners if you have questions about how much do you move every month? I find it's really hard for if you're dependent upon people coming to you and paying you to do like a service, like a commercial kitchen operation or a food truck, it's hard to project revenues because you don't know what traffic is going to look like, right? If you can talk to people that are already doing it, you can, hey, how many customers do you get average on a weekday, on a weekend? That's great. If you don't have that resource, you're going to have to do some research. Maybe you got to go to good old ChatGPT and ask them, how many people visit Volcano National Park in a week? And then maybe you're going to have someplace right outside of that park, close to it, that people can stop for food. That gives you an idea of traffic. They're not all going to come and buy stuff from you, but it gives you an idea of the max number of people that could, right?
What's the lady that sells pies? Bonnie's Pies? On the way to Volcano? Just on the way back, yeah, just got a sign on the highway pointing into the neighborhood. I can recommend Bonnie's Pies.
Yeah. Research on some for costs and expenses. I mean, you can look up those numbers, right? How much does it cost you to buy those pieces of equipment? Do that research. The more research you do on the financial section, the more confidence the reader has in that your plan is going to work, right? We talked about you building up, showing that you have an awareness of the market, showing that you're doing your due diligence in terms of research. On the financial side, it makes them more confident to give you whatever you're asking for if the numbers are backed and supported. And because I said cash flows are kind of the most important, I just want to spend 2 slides on it. This slide looks fairly benign, right? A cash flow is basically a beginning balance, adding in sales, taking out expenses or costs, and then having an ending balance. And then your next month, that ending balance is your beginning balance. And then you add in that month's revenues and take out that month's expenses, right? That's the cash flow part of it. It's the physical movement of cash. And that's kind of the bottom line on the cash flow projection. And this one is benign. The next one is going to give you a headache. This is like an example of a cash flow projection. So if you'll notice on the bottom, right, it says starting cash in January is $3,000. So that person started the business with $3,000. They made $1,100 in January, but they spent $2,700. So they ended January with $1,400. Right? February starts with 14, so on. What this cash flow shows you is that if you look at months, April and May, right? In April, they end with $0. That means they just had enough cash to pay their expected bills in April. In May, they're $500 short. So what doesn't get paid in May, right? So what that tells the owner is I got to either maneuver some of my expenses to not happen in, come up to May, or I got to find some way to input $500 more in my business, right? I got to do some kind of sale. Maybe I increase sales for the first 4 months so that I have enough money to cover it. Maybe I start off with $3,500 instead of $3,000. But that's what shows, and this ending balance is what shows you, hey, do I have a consistent ending balance of like $5,000 a month? Maybe I could hire somebody that I'm going to pay X dollars per month, right? If I take out a loan, do I have enough ending balance every month that I'm projecting to pay that loan off, right? It's a projection, so it's not fact. So things can change, but I feel like it makes you a little more comfortable that you can pay that thing off if everything happens as I think it's going to happen, I'm going to have enough money to pay that off, right? Or buy that piece of equipment or pay for that employee. So the cash flow part is this bottom. And this is what I said where if somebody asks you for multiple years, like this person is already kind of generating revenue in year 1. If they ask for multiple years, I might just say, hey, year 2, I'm just going to up everything by 10%. Year 3 is just going to up everything by 10% in year 2. Right? And again, this is going to look different depending on what kind of business you have, right? This is an example of an egg farm. If you're doing a value-added product, you're going to have ingredients as an expense. You're going to have packaging as an expense. It's going to be, if you have a food truck, you're going to have number of plates that you're going to serve. It's going to look different depending on what kind of business you have. So that's business plans, right? It's a lot of junk that you got to put down on paper. Some summary, maybe some tips. That first one, avoid generalities, we talked about that. Like avoid industry speak even more. Like I have a consulting background, so if you have a drink every time I use the word, I'm pivot or, consulting words. Like avoid industry speak. Be specific as you can, so the reader knows that you know what you're talking about. Think about who the audience is going to be. I hope that clap didn't mess up the audio.
No, you're good.
And then view it from the audience's perspective. Think about what they're going to look for and make sure that you're providing what they want to look for. Make sure that the financials match the written section. Okay, please. I've gone to plans where I look at the financials and it tells me all this information. I'm like, yeah, this looks really great. And then when I look at the narrative portion of when they tell me what their product is and what their services are, it's not matching what was in the business plan. So then I have a question, well, which one is wrong? Is the narrative wrong? Are the numbers wrong? It's easy to go in and update it and change the numbers. Make sure you go back and you change the narrative that describes what those numbers are going to be. Like when you talk about your products, right? Make sure that the products that you list in your cash flow projection are the ones you have written in the body of the business plan. I've seen a lot of people where they update one, they don't update the other. And I mean, that's not horrible, but then that just brings up a question. And you don't want people to have questions when they're reviewing your plan. Appendices are your friend, right? Like that story I told about the academic who put all that research jargon in his exec summary, that wasn't the place for it. But if you want to add an appendix that says results of research from 2022, right? That's where you throw that. And then if I want to look at it, then I can go read it, but it doesn't muddy up the body of the plan, right? Super detailed cash flow projections. You might want to show 10 years worth of it. Don't show that in your financial section. Show the summary in the financial section, and maybe you show the detail in the appendices, right? To your friend. Sometimes business plans and people that request them will give you a page count, right? But sometimes they say that appendices don't count towards the page count. So think about where you want to add the detail and make sure that it doesn't take away from your plan, right? Throw it in appendices if it's extraneous to the business plan itself. Proofread your plans, because as nitpicky as it sounds, spelling errors or grammatical errors are annoying to the reader, right? If you're going to use a lot of Hawaiian words and Hawaiian language, make sure you're using the diacritical.
Kiokina.
Yeah, make sure you're using those correctly. Or don't use them at all, right? Proofread it. Make sure you have others. Make sure you have a not independent, but an unbiased third party review it for you, right? That can be Anthony or it could be me. Like, hey, can you take a look at my business plan and let me know what you think? Because I'll be honest and I'll be brutal. If you go to your spouse or your friend and your sibling and you say, hey, I made a business plan for the business I want to start next year. What do you think? They don't want to hurt your feelings. So they're going to say, oh, this is a great idea. Yeah, I'm surprised nobody came up. You need unbiased review. Somebody that's going to say, hey, you know what, this is a great idea. Are there that many people that are going to buy durian? And if you think so, why do you know so, right? As opposed to somebody that wants to tell you nice things and not hurt your feelings. And then last thing, update it, right? Write a business plan, get that template out, start on it today, whatever, but update it so that the next time you use it, it's not the same. If the information hasn't changed, great. But in most cases, if it's a couple years old, like expenses are going to change. We all know cost of buying things is going up every year, right? Expenses are going to change. Foot traffic might, update your plan for the new audience. That's kind of what I had for business plans. I kind of wanted to talk about how do we get started, right? So I talked about business plans, what's in it, what do I need to include in my plan? We'll have templates for you to work on. How do I get started, right? You gotta sit down and you gotta do that brain dump. I can't think of a nicer way to say it. The information dump. You gotta get that information that's in your head down on paper. And that's how you're going to start to develop your business plan. So how do you do that, right? There are a number of tools out there that are kind of designed to help you do that brain dump. The first one is going to look at it as a business model canvas. We're going to talk about a SWOT analysis. Business model canvas, you might not have heard that term. If you're a consultant or anybody in the financial sector, you've heard that. SWOT, most people have heard that. We'll talk about what that is. And then we'll look at Ag Plan last. Anthony will walk us through it. But those first two kind of tools are things that people use to develop or start to work on their business plan. So the business model canvas, what is it, right? It's a strategic tool. It's a visual tool that was designed in the early 2000s. I think I put 2005. Yeah, I mean, that was back in 2000 when everybody was all about, let's get our groups together and have a meeting, and we're going to throw this on the board, and we're going to visually map out what this is, right? Visual interpretations of our business planning things was kind of big in the early 2000s. Am I wrong? Am I right?
You're right.
It was developed, right? It wasn't just good enough to write a business plan on paper with bullet points. We had to get something thrown up on the board, right? So the business model canvas consists of these different kind of 9 building blocks. I'm not going to read through them. You can see what they are. But all of these kind of building blocks are things we talked about in the business plan, right? Who are your customers going to be? How are you going to reach them? The value proposition is, what are you going to sell? What is your product? What are you going to deliver, right? Cost structures, your expenses. Revenue streams is where you're going to sell your product. These are all things that we got in the business plan, right? But again, back in 2005, we wanted it to be a little more interactive. So we'd get everybody together in a room, we would throw up on our board, and this is the visual 1-page, hey, a business plan is great, but what does it really distill down to? And they came up with this 1-page business model canvas. I hope you don't have anybody that worked on it. I don't want you're giving me a frown.
No. Well, I like the business model.
I like it as a start.
As a start,
Yes.
exactly, because it is like the full business plan can be intimidating to begin, and it's on all of these pages. But if you start by, putting it all on one page, like as simple as possible, boom, 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 and then from there you expand on it and make it a full,
exactly.
a full plan.
I love it as the model for your brain dump of information for your idea. So again, all of these 9 components are things that you can further develop into a full-on business plan. Basically, the left side of the screen is on your kind of internal operational stuff. Right? Like, who are you going to work with? Who are your partners? What are you actually going to do? What are your activities? What resources do you have in terms of your location or your equipment or your experience? That's all internal. The right side is the customer-facing side. Like, who are my customers going to be? How am I going to relate to them and work with them? Right? What channels am I going to use to reach to them? And then the middle thing is the value propositions. That's kind of the product. So the left side kind of flows into the right, into the middle, develop that product, and it flows into the right side to sell to the customers. And then the bottom is just the costs related to the production, and then the revenues related to the sales. So this is just an example for a sushi restaurant. I took it off of upmenu.com. Thank you, upmenu.com, for providing us with this sample on Google. I want to be sure that I recognize that's where I pulled this from. But this is a good thing that you could throw up on the board with your business team or your family or whoever's working on this plan with you. You can map everybody's ideas out, and then you can use that to start working on your actual business plan using something else like AgPlan. But again, it was meant to be a visual group dynamic kind of development document. A 1-page, it's not meant to replace a business plan, but it's a 1-page kind of view. It's a little more detailed exec summary. It's more visual exec summary. Anybody have questions? I'll let you look into it as you.
That's I never thought of it that way. It's like a visual executive summary. Yeah.
Did you have another example you wanted to use, or is this one okay?
I have an even more simplified example. There's a few copies printed out. You're welcome to grab one on the way out. It just distills it into only 5 sections.
The less sections, the better.
Yeah.
This is another example for a food-based business. I took this one off of umobusinesses.com. So there's a lot of great examples on the internet, right? Don't copy and paste that example for you because it's not going to match your business. But this is the same thing. It's the business model canvas. There's another thing called a lean canvas, which is kind of developed off of the business model canvas. So this was created a little bit later, but it was geared more towards like a startup, where you might not have assets in place, but you got an idea of a problem you want to solve, right? What is the problem that's out there? Instead of partners, activities and resources, which you might not have as a startup, right? Partners you develop over time. Activities, if you're operating, you know what those activities are. Your existing business, you know where your resources are. But as a startup, you might not know that, so it focuses more on identifying what the problem is that you want to solve and figuring out how you're going to solve that problem from this business idea that you have.
I like and hate this because it reminds me of business school.
Yeah.
It's very much, right, the true spirit of entrepreneurship, if you're as dumb enough as I am to go to grad school to study entrepreneurship, it's not about, oh, I want to make this product because I'm passionate about it. It's what is a problem that you can identify, and the solution to that problem is the business that you should pursue. So all about identifying problems and creating solutions for those problems.
And that's what this is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And just, again, you don't have to go to business school to learn how to start a business.
No.
In fact, I would highly recommend you don't do that and just start a business. But first, write a business plan.
Yeah. Vet that business in your own head. Yeah, that's a whole other discussion. I think if you go to grad school, I think it shows you what the limitations are. But if you just try it, you don't know what those limitations are. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's business model canvas and the lean canvas. Again, it's just a visual kind of way to plot out your ideas and throw it down on paper because hopefully it flows. Something that all of you might have heard about before is the SWOT analysis, right? SWOT stands for your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So your strengths and your weaknesses are internal to you and your business. Opportunities and threats are things that exist outside of your business. Again, these are things that you would throw in your business plan. How do I distinguish myself from my competition? It's a strength, right? Maybe in a business plan you don't put much on your weaknesses, but it's a good thought experiment on where am I lacking? Maybe that's where you put it. I can't do all of these things, but I reached out and I know that I need help in sales. So my friend who's a salesperson and marketer is going to help me with my social media. You identify where your weaknesses are and you identify resources that are going to help you, right? So that's all internal. Externally, what are the opportunities that are out there? That's in your market analysis section, like your industry analysis, like what market am I getting into? Is there an opportunity for me to sell product there, right? Threats. Again, it sounds, they won't negatively impact you, but competition is a threat, right? For farmers, Mother Nature is a threat. Like, what are the external factors that can negatively affect your business? And just think these out. They might not all go into your business plan. Like, I've seen business plans where they put the SWOT in there, and I kind of glance. So I'll be honest, I glance over the SWOT. That doesn't tell me anything about the business, right? Sure, it's touchy-feely. What's your strengths, your weaknesses, but perceived opportunities and perceived threats. I'd rather see, what your financial projections are, what are you going to be selling, where are you located, and who's in charge of the business. But that's just me, so don't use me as a judge. But SWOT is a good self-analysis tool, I feel. And then, if there's no questions, I want to take a look at AgPlan.
Yeah.
So let's look at AgPlan. AgPlan is a tool developed by the University of Minnesota. It's kind of like what I talked, some people will charge you for this. So it'll break down a business plan into a bunch of different sections, and it'll tell you to fill in this section, and then you enter it, and then you move on to the next section, you fill it in, you move on to the next section, you fill it, and then at the end you print a business plan. And it'll combine all those sections into a fully formed document. You might have to play with the formatting a little bit, but it's a way to get a nice draft of a business plan. You don't have to answer or fill in every section, but it's useful to to show you what should be in it. Yeah, so the first thing it'll ask you to do when you go to that website is it'll tell you to set up an account.
So we have here a sample made up business that I probably won't actually do, but very well may end up doing in the future. But we wanted to have something to run through so you guys could see the examples, right? So the business that we're going to be using today as an example is Uncle Tony's Fantastic Fruit Flights. What do you think of the name, Eric?
I'm intrigued. Are you going to go right into the view plan, or are you going to?
Yeah, that was my plan. What do you want to do?
Can we show them? Because there's options on what kind of business plan you can start, right?
Oh, okay.
Like if you click on that start a new plan, will it bring up all of them? Yeah, so this is when you start, right? You start a new plan, it'll ask you what kind of plan you want it to be. So you could be a value-added producer. You could be an ag tourism operation, right? You could be just a small business. Maybe you're including a lot of those different things. And that will kind of determine what word am I looking for?
Additional details that
Yes.
they have. Yeah.
What sections will go into your plan? So I want to learn more about Tony's Fantastic Fruit Flights.
So you can see they have all the sections over here on the left, and these sections, for the most part, all of them expand with individual components.
And look at that, I wasn't off my rocker. Executive summary, business, operations, marketing, and financials, right?
Yep.
I wasn't lying to you.
So we have a few pieces of information in here, but one of the cool components of this tool is this section down here. Every section has tips on what should be in that section, resources for that section, actual examples, and you can add comments.
You can also give Anthony access to your business plan and say, Anthony, can you review it? And he can add comments to your plan if you want to get that third-party review. But that the examples thing is like, the samples is cool, but I'm afraid like people will just, it's too much of a crutch. Like it's tough. You should still think about writing your own, but it's great if you're stuck. Yeah, resources is cool because but it's going to send you to the internet. I don't know where it sends you.
So for business description here, you can see, because business description is broken down into business overview, location, facilities, history, ownership structure. So you want to use this section and the following subsections to describe your farm-based business. If you want a very brief business plan, you can put everything in this one section, right? If you leave this main section blank, then the next section will serve as the heading for the subsections. If you want a more thorough, detailed business plan, then you can leave this section blank and move ahead and fill out these individual ones. So, business overview. Eric, what is Uncle Tony's Fantastic Fruit Flights?
They are exotic fruit tasting experiences held across Hawaii Island. Various tropical seasonal fruit from Hawaii Island will be featured at each event with additional fruit and fruit accessories for sale. What are fruit accessories? Featured fruits will include coconuts, pineapple. Are coconuts a fruit?
Yeah.
Are they a nut?
Oh, that's a whole nother workshop, Eric.
Pineapples, mangoes, bananas,
Anonas.
garcinias,
Gotta have garcinias.
cacao, citrus, and other seasonal offerings.
That's right. Fruit accessories. That's a good question. Is there a section maybe later on where I would elaborate? Yes, there is. So this is great because you can start, right? You can add a couple things, you can move on, and then you can come back. So location, well, we're going to be based out of the Hilo Food Hub, located at 555 Kalanianaole Avenue in Hilo. This location serves as a commercial kitchen space for Department of Health permitting, which is going to be necessary if I'm going to be serving local fruit, as well as cold and dry storage for fresh fruit and value-added product storage. Again, this is location, so that's like my physical facility location, but I also have an e-commerce website serves as headquarters for Uncle Tony's Fantastic Fruit Flights, where fruit tasting events are posted for ticket sales. Private events are also available with the registration form on the website to collect details and schedule requests. Value-added products are available for sale with shipping available. More about the Hilo Food Hub facilities. I don't have any business history. What about ownership structure? Eric, what does this say?
Uncle Tony's Fantastic Fruit Flights will be a registered trade name and DBA for Green Kind LLC. Oh, it's an LLC, awesome. Owned and operated by Anthony Flore, Green Kind LLC is a single member LLC, taxed as sole proprietor. Green Kind LLC is an agribusiness consulting firm that facilitates workshops and courses specialized for Hawaii food businesses. Fruit tastings have long been a part of our agribusiness education and experiential learning programs, so a separate revenue stream specializing in these fruit tastings is a natural development of the organization. That's a long sentence.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
the question is, do I need to start a separate entity for this fruit tasting business, or can I run it under the LLC I currently have? Eric, what would your suggestion be?
Not knowing a lot about both and just going by what I'm reading, because the fruit flight business involves people ingesting product and they're eating stuff, I would want there to be a clear separation between that and my consulting business. I would recommend opening a separate LLC and not just doing a DBA. If somebody sues your Fantastic Fruit Flights because they got sick and it's just a DBA, the assets, all of this beautiful media equipment is in danger, right?
That's right. That was a test, and you passed.
Oh, thanks.
It'd be easier to start this business under my current LLC and not create a separate entity, because it's almost close enough, right? Doing a fruit tasting is kind of like doing a workshop. But as Eric said, you're going to be ingesting food. Someone could choke, someone could have an allergic reaction. And if I don't have it as a separate business entity, meaning a separate LLC, then if there's an issue, then my entire business under that LLC, even if it's not related to the fruit tasting, is liable. Does that make sense? So this would be a section that I would need to update, because I'm not going to do it under Green Kind LLC. I'm going to create a separate LLC. So let's see. products and services. I threw in a couple. So primary product, in-person fruit tastings at various locations. Fruit will be sourced from the island. Secondary product, fruit for shipping interstate or to the mainland. There's only two that you can do, coconuts, and I'm going to do white pineapple because I'm not going to mess around with any yellow pineapple. And then additional value-added fruit products and fruit accessories on the website, also available for shipping. So rough prices, $49 a person for a fruit tasting, $89 for a deluxe fruit tasting. We could do just a coconut fruit tasting, $49 a person. And then fresh, available for shipping, coconuts, $49 per coconut. Yeah, that's right. $99 for a white pineapple. Where else are you gonna get one? Supply and demand.
Are you selling machetes?
And so a machete is actually my favorite fruit accessory, as well as coconut key tools, coconut scrapers, and fruit knives. And those are just a few of my favorite fruit accessories. So let's just cut to the chase. Unless you guys want to help develop my marketing plan right now. Huh? Maybe next month. Oh yeah, word of mouth.
Word of mouth. And Facebook and Instagram. Yeah.
Constant contact.
Love it. Okay, now what?
So like I said, click on financial plan really quickly just so we can see.
Oh yeah, of course.
You
You think I'm gonna skip
can't skip
financial plan?
financials for me. But yeah, so there's no ability to use spreadsheets in here. So like financial projections, it's just narrative. So you got to cut and paste things out. Like if you click on financial projection. I think are they good in the samples? Oh, the samples are nice. But again, I think that's just cut and paste. Is it a table? Yeah.
There is a table wizard.
But it's not a spreadsheet.
But can you drop a spreadsheet?
I'm sure you can copy and paste.
I've copied and pasted the spreadsheet as an image, but I don't know if you can copy and paste it as, with all of your formulas intact and stuff like that, I don't know if you can. I might be wrong, because I'm not an ag plan expert. But you can put a table in there clearly.
Yeah. Asset management.
I found tables are very hard to use. You know that cash flow projection I showed you as an example? There's no way you're going to put that in a table in a document that's going to look nice. So I always got to cut and paste it out of a spreadsheet. So once you save it and you print it.
Print?
Yeah, I think print. And then you want to you can look at the business plan only or the comments and the
I
plan.
don't have any comments right now.
And then if you hit print plan, I think it'll give you an option to print a PDF.
Live. We're doing it live, people. Will there be technical difficulties?
Yeah, click on the
Hey, oh, so it does it in a doc
Or a PDF.
file or a PDF. My plan. Hey, definitely need some marketing.
Yeah,
some
you need
formatting.
a picture on the front, but
Whoa, all right, formatting is there. Look at that.
I mean, you might want to clean it up a little bit.
Definitely. But that's cool.
But it'll just word process it.
Yeah.
Throw it all into the document.
I like it. We're gonna go ahead and wrap up this Zoom call. And thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate it. For future workshops and business resources, check out HawaiiCommercialKitchens.com and
GoFarm Hawaiʻi. .org.
.org.
O-R-G.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you all.
Thanks.
We'll see you next time.